today our talk will be about distractions while we're working towards enlightenment. Should we get rid of all the gadgets? Should we get rid of all the distractions while we are working towards enlightenment? And it makes me think about that monk that went to sit on top of the mountain, and he thought he reached a really high state until he walked back down the mountain, came on the marketplace, and the first people who said something to him that he didn't like, he had a conflict straight away. So, is it wise to completely isolate you away from society and all the gadgets, or do we have to do it within society and deal with the distractions head on? That is what this talk is going to be about. I hope you like it.
Welcome to the Happy Life Show. My beautiful, loving, gorgeous, scrumptious, sexy, adorable, good cook, good at ironing my clothes.
Oh my God!
Good at tidying the bed, good at doing the housework, good at pleasing me while I sit there on my ass doing nothing. She does it all for me.
So what's my name then?
Ahiranta!
Whoa! You got so caught up in the introduction, you forget my name. Alright.
Wouldn't you?
Well, my introduction of my wonderful husband, Ozay Tulku Rinpoche, is shorter. Doesn't mean I love him less. There you go.
Okay.
So, today we're going to talk about should we get rid of all the distractions while we work ourselves or to mind realization or enlightenment.
Well, the thing is, everything that you are attached to and you require to busy your day, distractions, is everything you have to lose. So obviously the shortest route to enlightenment is get rid of everything. That's the easiest. The easiest way, believe it or not, is to cut yourself off from society completely, go up into the mountains and not have nothing except the basic minimum food and water, and that is the easiest way. Although a lot of you would say that's the hardest way. The hardest way is the natural way, and the natural way is that every human being on this planet is already going through the process, growing towards enlightenment very slowly. It can take lifetimes to get there, and that happens through attachment, and then, as the Buddha once said, nothing has permanence. Only thing that does have permanence is impermanence. So you attach to that, which would be along the way to enlightenment, then you're getting there. But trying to do it while your telephone is on, or while the TV is on, or anything that you normally do in a day, that is the hardest way. There are methods to purify yourself, which we call self-observation, being present. All of these things are very difficult because you're battling with distractions all the time, all through the day. But when you go up into isolation, there's nothing there. The only thing you deal with as a distraction is your own instincts and your own thoughts. And don't forget, you've got double that when you're in life, and maybe you'll have a moment where you consider, I want to self-observe, I want to be self-present, I want to be here. You may have a moment, but it won't be for very long before something turns up, before the clock turns around a few more minutes, and you'll be distracted. But sat with yourself in a mountain, in isolation, easiest way, but difficult.
But the danger is that you fool yourself, isn't it? Because it is very easy to we live away from society for the last 2 decades, and not because we are monks, but because of health reasons. And it's very easy then to fool yourself that you relax, you don't get upset by things, because not much stimulation comes in to push our buttons. And that is, of course, the risk if you go and sit in isolation in a forest, and then you think, yeah, my mind has much more slowed down, is much more quiet. But as soon as you step back into society, it turns out that you have been fooling yourself. So how do people know if they're on the right track?
Well, they will know. And this is the reason I say this. That approach comes from understanding that whoever went into the mountain, this monk, there's a story, isn't there, about a monk who went into the mountain, thought he was enlightened, came back to society, and he was hooked up on everything like a fish.
Oh, he had a conflict within no time, yeah.
Well, there is a metaphor that somebody, I think it was the Buddha, and he spoke about this metaphor where we are like saturated wood that's at the bottom of the water, and it's just tinkling along, being pushed by the undercurrent, and then eventually a big wave comes possibly and puts it onto the land there, and although it's saturated, and during the time it's saturated, it's not going to float properly, it's not going to do, it's just there, and the longer it stays on the bankside, the more dry it becomes, the more vacant of water it becomes. But if it stays there for a short time and then goes back into the water, then just like the monk is going to be pulled into this, that and the other, just like an ordinary person. And then the old habits of conditioned behaviour and responses will return. So I would say that the story about that monk, I would question about the monk that he didn't spend long enough in isolation in order to dissolve all of those behaviours and conditioning, and to dissolve his mind in the way that's required for enlightenment to take place.
Or he didn't do the inner work properly, because if you don't dissect yourself, your own mind, you can easily fool yourself that you are, I'm much more relaxed. I'm not so reactive anymore. My need to keep things under control has lessened, so I'm making real progress.
And that who's speaking there when you're saying that? I'm just making as an example. What is speaking there?
The ego.
It's the ego is speaking, and it is that very thing that goes up into the mountain, tells itself, I'm enlightened, then comes back, I'm enlightened, everyone. The ego speaking. And it's not like that. It's just no longer present. The comparison, the measuring, the thought of self, the eye's gone completely, and it just doesn't happen that way. So if anybody, and they say, like I say that I had enlightenment. I know right now I'm not in the enlightenment. And they say that those who say they're enlightened are not enlightened. Well, I will say that's true, absolutely true. But also I would say that you have to consider, how do we know about enlightenment, and how do we know what to do to get to enlightenment? And I'll speak about the Buddha because he's the best example I know of, because I'm not really an intellectual about these things, but I do know a lot about the Buddha after talking in Buddhist groups for quite so many years and challenging a lot of traditional ideas about Buddhism and about meditation. And I will tell you, I know for absolute sure that the last 40 years of Buddha's life he went out teaching. And I know right there the Buddha lost his enlightenment. He was no longer, it's like, enlightenment is like, this is what I call enlightenment. It's a no time, no space, no breath, no presence, no self state. And you cannot be in mind then. You cannot speak, you cannot teach.
From that state,
all desire is absent, all thought is absent, all breath is absent, the body is absent. You cannot speak in that state. Okay, so the ego totally go. But when you come back and you're if you found your enlightenment up in your bedroom or in your home or wherever, then you will be aware that you require a mind to talk. Although you've dissolved your mind and you've discovered the nature of life, you've discovered the nature of mind, and you've discovered the nature of reality, which means you know that you're just a player in the world, and that you have to use the player in the world, but what you are is behind the player. You're no longer the player. You thought you was the player, but you're not the player. So you're free, and you have a new understanding of life. Everything have changed. Your paradigms have changed about life and what it really is. And I know it's a bad thing to say higher and lower, but
only the ego will find that really offensive.
But what you've done, you've risen out of the animal. You're no longer a caged animal anymore with all of these ethics and these principles and how you should be, and these beliefs and these ideas of what is and what shouldn't be, and all this. You've lost all of that. You're just free.
Yeah.
The only rules you live by is that there are no rules. No rules.
You're no longer identified with all the rules you have to play in society.
Yeah.
So that is the difference. So somebody who truly has experienced enlightenment will know that there's also physical phenomena that takes place, and that we spoke about it in other videos. So is it in this Western, is this...
You mean city phenomena?
In the Western society, is it is not really set up for people to go on long retreats. We have a retreat in Sweden, in the forest. We have somebody at the moment who is there to meditate. Not everybody can do it because
in isolation.
It can, if people cut everything off, all his connections with the outside world. Truly, the line of madness and enlightenment is very thin, isn't it? If people take the wrong turn in their practice, we don't allow everybody to go in our retreat.
Certain people are not ready for it.
No.
And they have to be a person of a certain caliber. And when they go there, really, I'm supposed to, if I stand to my word, I'm not supposed to have anything longer to do with them. But I have to, in today's society, I have to keep an eye, because the person is on their own. There's nobody there. If they have an accident or if something goes wrong, I need to know, because it's in the middle of a forest, in the middle of nowhere, and the nearest people to that person who is in that meditation is like 15 kilometers away. And we're not always sure, even though they are that far away, that even from there that we can make it happen. So I need to keep an eye on that person, just
we
to make
need
sure.
a signal of life, eh?
Yeah.
Because things can happen when you are and the house is
so I'm kind of responsible. We are responsible.
Yes, that's right.
For it.
So that can be detrimental towards your training, that you have to give a sign of life every day.
It's like I said, you can do it the natural way. That means it's going to take so many lifetimes before you evolve into enlightenment, and society as a whole is doing it along the way. And or you can short route yourself and then take a shorter distance, which is isolation. So therefore, if you consider that just a little check every now and then, that's not a great deal of input to overcome, or and we don't speak, we only give a thumbs up. We say the minimum things, just as long as I see that thumbs up. And every once in a while I will ask him questions to make sure that he's thinking in the correct way, and that he's still got it together. And I will be very aware of anything at all, because I'm very in touch with the process and what goes on there. And I will be aware of anything that may be untoward. So we keep an eye on.
Because in that situation, the question came, can I turn my phone off? But instead of turning the phone off and then thinking that you have no distraction, and I thought maybe by leaving it on, they have to resist the temptation to pick it up and then looking at the desire. Why do you want to pick it up? And then figuring that out. I think that's much more beneficial than throwing your phone out or leaving it somewhere in another country and think, okay, yeah, look, I can do without the phone. But you have not transcended the desire.
You'll find something else to focus.
Yes.
The desire.
But you can also, for example, the mouse, the mice that came in the house and make contact with them and then there is nothing wrong with doing it, but it is very helpful for our practice to observe why do we need that contact? Yeah. Why do we want to pick up our phone? What am I looking for? Because that is what transcends things inside of us. Not just to get rid of everything and thinking, oh yeah, done it. It's like somebody who's addicted to alcohol, for example. It's really good that they stop drinking, but if they don't go psychologically further, why do I drink? What drives me to drink? Why do I have that need? Why is that desire there? The chance is, how long can their willpower keep them away from the drink or whatever it might be, gaming, gambling, anything we are overly attracted to, isn't it? Sex. It goes in all areas. So for me, how I have done it, although I lived away from society due to an illness, I observed, why do I watch TV, or why do I feel like this, or what? It was the reasoning and the questioning. So that's why the question is, should we get rid of it, or should we just keep it and look at the desire that makes you pick this up? That makes you go behind the computer, that makes you need to go and see other people, that makes you go on holiday, or all those excuses we bring forward to do that. Oh, I deserved it, I've worked really hard, or what is it bringing? What am I? Because for me, I came to see, I was always looking for something. Stimulation and the gratification, that feeling of...
looking to release the tension from...
And that brings a really
and it's
nice...
a false analogy of what's going on in a way, because you're not really looking in the right place, you're looking outside.
Yeah.
And
the reward is short term, it needs to be replaced all the time. Yes.
And then you go back into the tension again. Yeah. And it's when you're in isolation, or in that situation we spoke about with the person we have this meditating in the isolation, it's you're not absolutely the log that's being saturated in the water, and you're lying on the bottom of the water, remaining saturated by all these sense, desires and what have you in your life. What you've done is you've managed to separate yourself from all of that, and let's say it's only once in a while it gets a little bit wet, but it dries out more quickly. There's an opportunity to look at when somebody, say, phones you or sends you a message, and that's the only thing you get. You don't get TV, you don't get the internet, you don't get nothing else, just a message once in a while. And then you have the space between it not being saturated, because you're not being saturated by everything else, to look at it and understand.
And look at yourself.
What is it, this impulse that I feel that makes me move from here to here, and to want to find out who is that, what is that, on that. And then you start looking inside, and you start recognizing a certain energy inside that pulls you out to there.
And what excuse is coming forward from the mind and the ego? What is it that wants you to break your meditation?
Well, at that point, when you actually at the point of picking the phone up, you've been triggered, and you're at the point where you don't understand what brought you that distance from there to there. You don't know what brought you that distance. You're only on the phone already. Mm-hmm. So, but when you sit back, and then you hear the ding or whatever you get on your phone, and there's a message on there, then as soon as that ding happens, you're sat. And you hold yourself back because you've had the time to dry out a bit. You become more aware that I'm here to become enlightened, to become free. And what was it that pulled me over? That last time I moved without awareness. I was on the phone and I wasn't present over you. I was gone with it. And I became like, you recognize that you're like a program. This happens, this happens. This happens, this happens. This happens, this happens. This happens, this happens. This happens. And it goes on and on and on. You just got no mind, no awareness is happening at all. You're just a slave of your environment. But when you break the pattern, you've gone into isolation, you're no longer saturated and sat on the bottom of the river or the pond, but you become a bit dried out. And then you sit here, the ding in your phone goes, and then you sat here, but you resist, and you wait, and you look, and you realise, ding went, feeling, little energy in your belly, little feeling. Then, you just started noticing this, and so the next time it happens, because it disappears quickly, then the next time it happens again, the feeling, then you grab the feeling, and then you try to repeat what it was, the track, that it took inside of yourself, and then you recognise something, you go in deeper and deeper each time, and then you recognise that there's something in you that requires satisfaction, and that's something in you that requires satisfaction. I can give you all the answers here, what requires satisfaction, and it will relate to everything that you do. It's sex, it's wanting to live, it's wanting to be happy, but it starts in there with this little impulse that you don't recognise because you're always in the automatic, robotic reaction, and you're a slave to it. But when you catch it, you are beginning to get the key to release yourself from this, and then you recognise you have to look inside more closely, and you're going deeper, and you recognise that you're really scared to be still, and you need to do something all the time, because if you stay still, the process is going to take place, the real process, and you see that what is life like, and you only see one thing, and that's the demise of your human body. You don't want to see that. You would rather run and become an automatic robot. But there's more gifts to it the more you realise. You stick with it if you're brave. And so you stick with this impulse, and you start looking inside yourself. Then you recognise this same impulse that desires to communicate is like the same impulse that desires sex. The same impulse that feels as though it's disconnected, and it has a longing to be connected, and that longing to be connected goes everywhere in your life, and it turns into all kinds of things, addictions. It's because basically that you're trying to run away from the reality of your life. You're too scared to look, where does it really go, my life? I'm born, I live, I die. That's what you think. But when you look more deeply, there's much, much more to it than that. And I personally think that as a evolving society, that one day, I hope in the near future, but I don't think so now with the way the rich people are controlling this planet at the moment and keeping us forever in wars and conflict and putting all kinds of crap in our brains about how things should and shouldn't be, what's ethical, what's not ethical, instead of looking inside ourselves and finding the great universal consciousness, which is love for oneself and one another. Instead of looking inside, they want to keep you outside. They want to keep you materialized and in the material world, because if you start looking in there, those people who have power in this world and cause all the problems, they're not going to have it any longer. Mm-hmm. And I think that personally, that our evolving will accumulate in I'll give it a metaphor, which is one that I like. And I found out the other day when I was looking at some of my like my cups and my plates that I choose, do you know what's on them? A butterfly. Can you believe that? A macho guy like me choosing bloody butterflies. You know, I come from Wales with the men, and the sheep get scared. Anyway, that's distracted me now in some way.
No, not really.
No, but what I'm saying is that the metaphor, I think that humanity, every human being one day in the distant future will be part of a golden society where every human being will no longer be a caterpillar crawling along the ground, but a butterfly flying high. And I think that it's possible. My enlightenment that I had, although it was the ultimate I can do here, I think that there was even further to go, as in becoming a body of light. And that was what I felt. And I didn't have no education about anything in them days. That was in the early 1980s, 1981. I became enlightened, which is a lot of years ago, and there was nothing here. There was no Buddhism, no...
Well, not in your environment.
No, not in the environment I was in. I don't think it was very well known, and so it was... I don't know why I'm saying that, but...
Because the Beatles started off a little bit of the...
Yeah,
stuff,
you got that cult today.
But you were not in that kind of environment, although you liked the Beatles, didn't you?
I like their music.
Yeah,
but
not the...
I went right off them, to be honest with you.
Because of that.
When they went into the Maharaji crap, like, you know.
Yeah.
Send me $50, I send you sacred mantra, and you repeat sacred mantra all day till you...
Yeah.
You know, brains drop out and you become so bored you go into some kind of blissful state.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
so
they made money out of it. But yeah, well, good.
We can sell mantras too.
Yeah, well, actually, you're talking about mantras, right? I found that it is true they do work, but you need it in English. It's good to have it in English, your own language, you know, because it's like they. And I know, I had it. I'll say two things, two apparently opposing things. There is one form of mantra where you use words of empowerment and you repeat.
Evoke.
Yeah, like I can and I will. I can and I will. And as you talk, you build up an energy and you feel it. In the beginning, you're sort of disconnected from the energy. And but, you know, you can be, say, on a downer and... you start saying the words, oh yeah, let's try these words out, like, you know. And so you say the words, I can and I will. Nothing. I can and I will. Still nothing. And then you go, I can and I will. I can and I will. I can and I will. You get start getting tired, you relax, you go down. I can and I will. Your breaks start getting longer. And so there's a bit of emptiness coming in, which is the energy you're looking for. I can. And I will. Suddenly the energy starts picking up because you're doing it right. And then you walk away from maybe a half hour of repeating that mantra, if you like.
Let's call it a mantra.
And you become powerful. You change from a down and depressed person to a powerful person. It's a form of self-hypnosis as well, if you like.
We are creators, aren't we?
But then I remember sat with our dear friend Craig, and I was looking in those days to understand some certain phenomena that was happening around the house that I live in, which is here. And, you know, my wife had just passed away, and there was a need, she wanted to communicate basically, and I went to see Craig because he was a well-known spiritualist medium, and I went to see a lot of them, and I knew that it was, for me, telepathy was quite, you know, I had a lot of that in my life, so it didn't mean nothing about a lot of these reading my mind. And then, of course, Craig, he had 100% right, and then he took 102%, which I didn't know at the time, because at the time I thought he had 98% of it right. But there was two things I didn't know about that only my wife and my children knew about, that I didn't know about, and Craig knew about it. So that means
Later
that
on, you discovered
he
that.
couldn't have
Yeah.
been reading my mind. So
No.
from that point on, I met up with Craig and I started sitting in his circles. And I remember one day, because Craig is an old hippie at heart, you know, all that LSD shit and
Yeah.
like, you know.
He has
started off.
experienced enlightenment
Yeah.
phenomena because of drugs, isn't it?
Yeah, he done it the LSD way.
He jumped onto the mountain without doing the path.
Although I wavered a bit with some of the things, because it wasn't exactly the enlightenment that I know about.
No.
And I wouldn't recommend anybody take LSD, by the way.
No.
But
Because
anyway,
you don't transcend anything if you do it with a chemical.
So anyway, Craig, like, he's into all this Maharashi crap that the Beatles brought over here, and all this Indian stuff, like, and I'm not saying that's all crap, but
It's not for you. It's not for you. No.
I've seen a lot of those Indian gurus. They just out to rip you off for your money, like, not all of them. Some of them are probably genuine, and I want to judge any specific one, but you just find out in time. And anyway, so we was doing a circle one day, and we was doing this table tilting. Like, we all stood up and we all had our hands on the table like this, and he was asking it questions. We had our hands on the top of the table, like, and you could see everyone's hands. I'll show you what I mean now. We had our hands like...
That's green.
Oh, that one will do it then.
Behind you.
Yeah. This one's green?
That side is brown.
It's brown. Okay.
He's colorblind.
Anyway, so we had the table, like, everyone had their fingertips on the table like this, right? And you could see everyone all standing on their feet. So you couldn't use knees or nothing like that. Standing on the feet, a little table in the middle of all of us, all touching. The table started going this way, started going that way, this way, that way. He was asking questions, yes, whatever. I don't know how they were being answered. And it started coming towards me quite vigorously, and then after a while it just slowed down the energy. It was like a battery running out. And so then Craig said something which made me think, oh my God. He said, everyone start repeating after me, Om. And I kind of looked at him. And I was like, for fuck's sake, shall I get out of here now? And I thought, you can't do that, Ozay, I thought.
Yeah.
So I thought,
Just
go along with it, for Christ's sake, I judged it, And, oh no, I made a little referential mistake there. I went along with it after judging it, okay, and I think, I'm an idiot, like,
Yeah.
And so I started going, like that, like with an attitude. And anyway, it started working more stronger, more powerful. That was when it started attacking me. I wasn't doing this for, like, I only thought it was stupid. But anyway, it proved to me that there are vibrational frequencies that we can use, that we're able to manipulate in a certain way, and it creates some connection with the spiritual world. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what that proved. And I've not really looked so deeply into that I have looked into other things. I kind of leave that to the side until maybe one day I'll...
Yeah, but you didn't use it specifically in your own... Because what we yes, you use prayer.
Yeah.
What we try to do in our talks is only to speak from experience or convey stories we have heard from other people's experiences. But generally, we try to only speak about what we truly know from experience.
What I've identified.
So
direct experience.
Evoking energy is the same with evoking spirits and evoking. The power of attraction comes to mind to me too. If you really truly ask from the right source for the right reason, so not an egocentric, selfish asking. immense interesting things happen.
Yes, certainly they do.
Yeah, so it is we coming back to if it's better to cut everything out and just sit, and or just leave the things around you and just really observe why you are breaking your meditation, why are your thoughts drawn to this, why, and then in that way you dissolve it all, isn't it? Because you come to insights bit by bit, little steps, little enlightenment moments, they call it, isn't it? Because the person who is in Sweden, and again, because we got a few messages about that we earn a lot of money by doing this and stuff. Now, even the retreat in Sweden is free. The person has donated a little bit of money towards the electric that needs to be paid that he is using, but we don't ask for anything. So I want to make that clear. But
Saturday nights.
Oh yeah. Please donate. But for me, I transcended things in myself just by observing, not to cut anything out, but just seeing what is that doing to me, why do I want that, why am I online, why am I writing a book even, why, what is the motivation behind that, why do I make these videos?
Yeah, but you see that questioning, right? It's making you, firstly you became aware, and the awareness made you question, and the question means you have to stick with it. You wouldn't allow it to be a grasshopper mind and jump this way, jump that way. You have to stay with it.
Yeah.
And staying with it develops more focus.
Because I wanted to stop my suffering, just like you.
Yeah.
You suffered, you were suffering in your way, on your experiences, and I was suffering. So I had hit rock bottom. And sometimes I do question if the people who have suffered the most have the biggest chance to reach the enlightened state?
They certainly have the greater motivation, but
to persist.
Unless they are offered a method to find a way out of the maze of the mind, then they could throw themselves off the top of a roof or something. But yet you need that kind of motivation, and then an offer from somewhere. If you're lucky enough to ever have been offered a method, that path to enlightenment, then you have something to work with, because the whole process, bit by bit, is relieving those things of suffering. Because as we've spoken before, your suffering will always be about attachment to something you have no control over. And basically, that is the main cause of suffering, attachment. And when you have developed the tools to cut the attachment, then you become free. And then you recognize, if you sit in meditation, well, I often sit in meditation, though I've been a bit naughty lately, and because life is life in these situations. But whenever I sit in meditation, then I'm always lifted, and I'm always in joy and lightness, and I'm free, more free of the crap where your mind takes you to, because your mind is really, if you look in the Bible, right, and this is the first indication that we were given in a book, because as we've spoken before, when I done my enlightenment, I did have the Bible there, but I'm no Christian, and I'm no what you guys might understand as Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons or whatever.
Oh, you are baptized. Your parents baptized you.
I'm a John the Baptist.
I'm Catholic. I'm the bride of Jesus.
Baptist, yeah. And so it's in the Bible. It's really interesting that they say Adam was naked and Eve was naked, but then when Eve took from the tree of the fruit the apple, was it?
It's always the woman who gets the blame.
There's more to the meaning than what a lot of people understand. She was told she shouldn't take from this tree and eat the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, and then she didn't only take it for herself, but she offered it to Adam.
We don't like to be told, you see.
Yeah, they ate the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, two opposing forces, duality. And you have to understand, it was written, they first came across that not in the era that the Bible would indicate, which was something like 4,000 years ago, but it was actually written in the Babylonian Bible, or whatever they call it, which was the very first civilization that they can go as far back to. And science, science is not perfect. We struggle along. But anyway, the tree, so you've got translation, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But before that, Adam and Eve could see God face to face. What is God? I know what God is. I had enlightenment and I know what God is. And it's not a person with a face. It's not a person. It's every person. And it's covering God. And the God is behind the person. And the animal and the tree. The whole universe is God. It's the nothingness and it's the everything. So anyway, that's God. You see God face to face. That is, you see beyond the form. And you see yourself. Because you're going beyond your form. You see yourself. You see yourself. And so, when they ate from the tree of knowledge, between good and evil, knowledge, good and evil, dual forces, that's mind and thought. And if you look at Hinduism, they meditate into no mind. If you look at Zen, all the Zen koans are about achieving no mind. If you look into Buddhism, it's all about no mind, discovering the nature of mind, enlightenment. And so seeing God was actually enlightenment and seeing beyond form, face to face. So you see, Adam and Eve, they say, although there's lots of varying views by the experts on this, but the one I think is correct is that Adam meant mankind and Eve meant womankind. So it would mean that you would have to figure out a few more metaphors along the way about some of those stories. But it means that man, the original man, was enlightened and that we had a golden period in the beginning and that we lost our enlightenment due to knowledge between good and evil, duality. In order for me to speak now, I have to have opposing something I have to consider something, and that something makes me speak. So I got something in there that makes me speak. Two opposing forces, or just something causes something. Cause, effect. Duality, cause, effect. Good, bad, black, white.
Yeah, because otherwise you would be in stillness.
Yeah.
And nothing would happen. You just some people.
That's enlightenment.
Yes, and some people have just is, or if you say I am, what is the I? That's all intellectual playing with words. People who try to be smart, isn't it?
Yes.
So what do we conclude? Should people get rid of their stuff, or should they just have themselves surrounded by it and see what it does to them?
Well, my suggestion is the less stuff you got in your room, the more easier it is to keep dusted.
To keep it dust free. Okay, well, there we had it then.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to get thrown right into isolation like I was. And I wasn't allowed nothing in those days because I escaped.
There was only a Bible in, that's why you started reading,
Yeah,
the Bible was there.
It was fantastic amount of suffering I'd inflicted upon myself, consciously inflicted in a way. And I couldn't read properly. I was really bad in school at English. English language, in English reading. I still am a bit now. I never really polished up that well.
Well, you don't know the mechanisms of the language.
No.
So your grammar,
Yeah.
where do you have to put a full
like-
stop, where you have to put a comma.
Yeah. I would like read like the newspaper, and I couldn't read the whole thing through. I could
No.
like, oh, that means blah blah blah. I was just absolutely stupid, to be honest with you. But I forced myself, and it was due to the enlightenment and the ability to maintain concentrated focus and to stick with it. And it meant that rather than reading one sentence and going off track somewhere, I would read one sentence, make sure I understood, and then the next sentence, and try to join them up in my mind. And so eventually I was able to read, which was, it was filling my mind, but because I'd already been meditating for so long before I started reading, I was able to, it was the reading and the mind stuff was the lesser than the empty space of mind. Therefore, this had had more dominance and more power than this. It was so easy for me then to jump in and to switch it off, because it was never really on in the first place. And how I used that to my benefit was because my mind became so pure and I'd lost all these negative feelings of hate inside my guts. And then I started reading about stories to start with of heroism, and then the stories of Jesus. And those stories, and some of those other stories in the Bible, are very heartwarming, very touching, and very powerful. And I wasn't in the mind part of it, I was in the feeling part of it. And then, of course, the New Testament, it gives stories of, human uncorrupted love. And so I would use the feeling, maintain the feeling, but lose all the words and the thoughts and the stories. So then it was like this, I disconnected from this, it was so easy. And so you sit with a burning feeling in your belly of love, and then you sit there in meditation, and it's like a super turbocharged to push you right into stillness and the blissful and the joyfulness, and then the rock solidness, and then whoosh, it explodes, and that's it.
Okay, this is the end of this conversation. Here in England, we are moving towards a really warm period, and we are sitting here surrounded by light, so it's getting quite warm. But I think we have done enough around this subject of phone on or phone off.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for watching us again in the Happy Life Show. And I forgot to ask again in the beginning, please subscribe if you want to support our work. Just subscribe. You don't need to give us any money. Just subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. It's always nice to see that people share their findings. Feel free to ask questions.
And don't forget though, if you do want to donate to our Friday night down the pub piss-ups, please feel free to donate.
Yeah.
Link down below. Thank you everyone.
See you later.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.